Hi everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk to you about some of the things you should expect when you embark on a holistic healing journey. Well, I'm really glad to be back filming. I have taken a bit of a break while I'm working on another project, and I'm really excited to bring this to you. It's only going to be about another week before it's unveiled, and so I've been a bit busy. And first I want to just mention, I have a brand new phone, and what's up with no headphone jacks? So I can't use my microphone right now because we haven't purchased the adapter thing, so I'm really hoping the volume on this is okay. Let me know in the comments. Unfortunately, my mic needs a headphone jack to plug into a phone, and this one doesn't have one. I understand the upgrading of technology, but sometimes they take away really convenient things like disk drives and laptops. Those don't exist anymore either. Let me know in the comments. Are you old enough to remember that laptops used to have disk drives? Are you old enough to remember that computers used to run off of floppy disks? Let me know in the comments. Anyway, I digress. I wanted to do a video that talked about the differences between a more allopathic approach to health versus a holistic, natural, potentially herbal approach to health, because I feel like sometimes people are disappointed with the outcomes, and I think that's because they're holding the two up to the same benchmarks and they're never going to meet those sets of standards. So I really thought it was important to draw some attention to the main differences that you're going to experience depending on which branch of sort of health and healing you decide to embark on. So the main difference I really want to point out is that most holistic practitioners, so when I say holistic practitioners, I'm speaking about naturopaths, herbalists, maybe acupuncturists, folks who do even energy healing or quantum healing modalities. We tend to be a little bit more holistic in the way that we frame healing. And of course, I'm saying we, and that may not include all practitioners. So it's always best to ask some questions and see what it is that you're looking for. Whereas the more mainstream medical model that many of us are used to is very symptomatic in their approach. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have a client who's coming to see me for anxiety and depression. And during our appointment, we're talking about things like how they're sleeping and how is their digestion and how's their circulation functioning, and do you have a lot of toxic load on the liver and the kidneys? And sometimes clients will get confused and they're like, well, no, I'm just here for depression, so give me herbs for that. And I don't work within that symptomatic model, meaning that when folks come to see me, I work on improving all the systems in the body because they're all interconnected, they're all related, and they all work together with each other. And so if you've got one system that isn't functioning well, let's say digestion, it's going to affect everything else in the body. And let's be honest, if you can't digest and assimilate the nutrients from your food, you're not going to be able to assimilate the nutrients and the medicinal properties of herbs, vitamins, or even the medications you're taking. And so sometimes, people get confused with that approach, whereas oftentimes when we go and see a medical doctor, they're simply looking at your symptoms. What are your symptoms and what can I give you to deal with those? Now, if this is something that's of interest to you, I'm going to drop a link to my evergreen webinar called Pillars of Health, because we talk about this. We talk about the foundational aspects of healing in that webinar. Now, the way an evergreen webinar works is the minute you sign up, you're going to have to wait anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, and it starts right away. So make sure when you sign up, you've got about an hour of time, a pen, pencil, and some paper so that you can take some great notes. But that's a main difference, is as opposed to looking holistically at the entire body. and how all the systems in your body are working versus just looking at the symptoms that you're dealing with. There's a very big difference in approach and a different way that we apply the herbs or, supplements or whatever you may be looking at, depending on which approach you take. So another area that's really important to highlight is the potential timeline that I'm going to use the word healing, but I don't feel that word is appropriate for all situations, but let's just use it for the lack of a better word. The timeline that your healing will take place on. So for example, let's say you have hypertension, you have high blood pressure, and you go on a blood pressure medication. Within days, your blood pressure has reduced and has become managed using that medication. Whereas if you see a holistic practitioner, herbs are slow medicine and they take time in the body. And that's because they're doing two very different things. Medications suppress symptoms. In almost every case, your blood pressure isn't actually better. It hasn't reduced. You aren't miraculously healed because of this pill. The medication is lowering your blood pressure, and it's doing so artificially, which again is fine. If that's your path you want to walk, zero judgment from me. But what happens when you stop taking the medication? Your blood pressure goes back up, right? I see this a lot with clients. I've actually seen this with a family member of mine who has recently been in and out of hospital. And when that happens, their medication is often not monitored. And within about 3 or 4 days, her blood pressure was through the roof. And we were like, what's going on? They're like, oh, whoops, she's not on her pills. And so that's what happens with a more allopathic medical model approach. You take pills and it suppresses your symptoms. Let's say you have eczema and psoriasis and you're given steroids. Those steroids don't magically make your skin condition go away. They suppress the symptoms, pushing them internally. Whereas when we take a more holistic approach to healing, these things take time, because what we're actually trying to do is heal the body so that you no longer have to experience those symptoms, that discomfort, that high blood pressure, that itchy eczema, the depression, the anxiety. And so, it's a very loose benchmark, but I like to tell folks that for every year that you have been dealing with this chronic condition, you have to give your modality at least a month. But there's a little bit of a caveat there. So I spoke about a caveat, didn't I? And that's because most holistic practitioners are also going to ask you to change things in your life. So when I say that for every year you've had a condition, let's give it a month, that's with taking into consideration a more balanced, nutritious diet, getting enough sleep, starting to exercise, reducing toxic load in your life and in your home, looking at some of the products that you're using on your body, putting in your body. And so if you don't want to do any of those things, which again, zero judgment, it's going to take a lot longer for herbs to work, because they're never going to work the same way a medication will. They're not nearly as strong. They're much more gentle, and they tend to work with the body's systems as opposed to pushing the body in a particular direction. Another great example would be the difference between taking birth control pills and actually learning how to balance your hormones, and so that your body can do it itself. These things, they take time. It took a long time for your body to express symptoms. By the time you are expressing a symptom, something's been brewing, underlying in your body, likely for years and maybe longer. And so the symptom is the last thing that we see. And oftentimes people don't want to give the natural modalities, things like herbs, the time that they need in order to heal. Something that also may differ when you see your physician, depending on the physician, is you may not be asked to look at your lifestyle, to use vitamins and good quality minerals, and look at the quality of water you're drinking, and are you getting enough sleep? These things may not be addressed. And so that's another major difference between that sort of holistic approach and the more mainstream medical model that we are used to and what we likely grew up with. So in the end, my hope with this video is just to sort of paint a bit of a picture for you. I hear a lot of stories where people were like, well, you know, I took St. John's wort for depression for like 3 weeks and I didn't feel better, so herbs don't work. And I think it's really important that we understand the pros, the cons, the limitations, and the areas in which our chosen method of healing shine. Right? If we hold herbs to a benchmark that like medications have, you're always going to be disappointed. Always, because they don't work the same way. They've never been designed to work the same way, and they never will work the same way. And I think the opposite can be said too, where, you know, we have a much gentler, usually safer, and with less side effects when we use herbs, whereas sometimes people become disillusioned and confused why they started off with one medication and suddenly there was a cascade effect, and now they need 4 or 5 different medications to manage all the side effects of the first pill that they went on. And so I think that it's just really important to highlight the differences between the two. Like I said, we all have our own healing journey to go on. We have our own path to walk. In my opinion, no one should be making that decision for you other than you. And understanding how both modalities work allows you to make an educated choice as to how you wish to proceed with your healing journey. So I hope you found this enlightening or even just a little bit educational. If you have any questions, as always, please drop them in the comments. I love having positive discourse when it comes to these things. What are your experiences with both healing modalities? I want to hear those stories as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to the channel, because sometimes you're not going to get notifications of my new videos, and I would love for you to see all of my content. And until next time, this is Corinne from Spirea Herbs, wishing you health and wellness.